Good morning, my YouTube family. It is your boy Zary from the XMG, and we have a huge patch to go over, and it is crazy the amount of stuff that is in here. And it is for the new event coming out, Pumpkin Hallowdays patch. There isn't really a number attached to it, but man, this is a huge patch. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of things we're going to have to go over, and I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. So it is very, very big. So alright, so here we go. And you will see right above me, that is my account. So we can kind of see the changes and the differences between that and then over there, test server. Okay, so the test server has these changes in it, and I can say when this patch was announced, I didn't have time to play with any of this stuff. I don't know how it's going to react. I don't know how it's going to change. So Lizard Breath yesterday at 1:30, essentially my time, drops this announcement that says, the Pumpkin Hallowdays is upon us. Champions, are you ready? Take part in festive incentives or activities. Earn special currency. Shop for treats in the special shop this holiday season. So we're going to have a special shop for this type of currency. 2 special events and a festive 7-day bonus activity will be going on during this time. Get a chance to receive Radash shards, Cruel Hero Stones, and much, much more. During Pumpkin Hallowdays, starting October 30th, so Friday, through November 6th, you will receive special holiday currency, the Pump Coin, as your reward form. And I like that. You get it from daily quests, towers, and guild raids. You can also receive Pump Coins from certain offers and events as well. You won't be able to refresh this shop for drop coins. It'll refresh every 24 hours. I really like that. The fact that you can buy Pump Coins, again, such a cool name, from offers and events. I'm fine with that. They can monetize it that way. But I really like the fact you can't refresh it. Make sure you drop by every single day. There's going to be a festive tournament, the Suicide Squad, which will take place on October 31st to November 3rd. And Pump Coins distributes stops November 3rd, right before the server reset, and the pumpkin shop shuts down a little bit the next day. So I really like that touch. Super good thing they thought about letting people who couldn't get in that day use up, or if they were saving and they didn't hit it, they can use up their pump coins just to get rid of them. I like that little touch. It's really nice. The Pumpkin Holidays special event, like we talked about, runs from October 30th to November 6th. Take part in holiday activities, get special currency, cool items in the holiday store. There's a new hero, Radash, Order Demon Mage. He's super cool looking. He is that upside down demon, and we'll go check him out right now. I have him ready to summon. I have not summoned him yet, but he is pretty solid looking. So there's Radash, and I love the new backgrounds on the characters with the pumpkins there. I love how they do this twist. I asked Lizard Breath a little bit ago, are we doing something for Halloween? And she said yes. So pretty excited about that. There's a special day login. During this, we'll receive Radash Hero Stones and Runes. 2-day holiday events. Get Radash Hero Stones, Cruel Hero Stones for participating in events. A special Pumpkin Hallowdays tournament. Suicide Squad begins on October 31st. Get Radash Hero Stars as stage rewards. And a redesigned and decorated the Pumpkin Hallowdays for character, lobby, battle locations, etc. Awesome. Season of Rockets. So we have a new battle pass starting November 1st. And we will get Hero Arno. He is a Clan's Goblin tank. And we will check him out right now, just so we can see what he looks like. And again, I got him ready to summon, but I have not summoned him yet. There he is. He's sitting in like a chair. Pretty cool. And we'll go over his kit and stuff when we get down to it, but not too bad there at all. Add tournament medals to games. You will get medals as a reward for performing well in tournaments. Show off your prestige. Just a little bragging right thing, perfectly fine with that. And later these medals will be used to determine ratings. Okay? This is a big one, and I love it. You will now get Zelenar shards from 4, 6, 8, and 10. It used to be 7, 8, 9, and 10. That is awesome. So if you only have a limited time to play a tournament, you can get rank 4 pretty easy. So at least you can get one Zelenar shard a tournament. So I'm really happy with that change. Added new personal hero challenges for most experienced champions. That's good. Keep up that interaction. Really like that. There's 2 challenges per hero for majority of heroes except for legendary and battle pass ones. The rest will be added shortly later in November. Okay, they answered my question. So for completing these challenges, you will receive the last items required to take your heroes to gear 12. We did test this on the test server, and it's interesting. I mean, I got really nothing bad to say about it. It's not easy, but I like the fact that it's based on you and you alone to get those last pieces to take them to 12. So I really, really like that. You can access these challenges by tapping on the 6th item in gear 11 of that hero. So over there in that corner, we are going to check that out right now. So if we go to Adam here and we click on this, we can move to our challenges. We have the 1st and the 2nd where we get that piece to take them up to gear 12. So just very, very cool. And again, just I like how it's on you. If you can get through that challenge to get that piece, perfect. If you can't, you can't. And you just got to keep working towards it. So really like that touch. Super cool. Okay, so the next one says, if defense wasn't set during defense days of Battlegrounds, it'll be placed automatically. This way you get a chance to battle and get a decent amount of points if your opponent has decided not to play. There is always a new button that lets you automatically assign the defenses you've used in your previous match. I love that. Time saving, quality of life, and then it benefits people who don't have time to, or whose opponent didn't set it. They were losing points. They were getting the win, which is nice and a lot of points. And I gotta admit, I've been slacking on Battlegrounds terribly. You can now increase your artifact storage bag by up to 250 slots. Okay, artifacts really wasn't a problem for me. It was more runes have become the problem for me. But I could see why increasing artifacts could be good, because the more and more you get, you got to upgrade them, and you don't want to sell them to upgrade ones that you already have. Fine with that. New models for season and tournament chests. Okay. New lobby for Order and Clans heroes. Just more visual improvements to the game? Okay. Thanisa is now available in Heroic Chest exclusive. Heroic Chest. Interesting. So we now know how we can farm Thanisa, and I still have to do the noob series on Thanisa and talk about that. And I'm interested to see how the new orc goblin tank affects her in that team, so that'll be some testing. Reworked some old heroes such as Old Lord, Sergeant Pigwell, Dr. Frank, Kyra, Xantera, Venomate, Mega Wheel Slinger, Shadar, and rebalance some heroes. Gear items, huge, and we will get to that. There's a lot of them. Legendary gear items have more stats now. Bug fixes and optimization. Okay. Bug fixes, they fixed the Battleground red marker. Perfect. Fixed raid guild and tournament achievements. Fixed issues when closing the game in the middle of the tournament battle don't count as a loss. Perfect. Battle changes. As Dragon Champion's family continues to grow and we add more and more heroes to the roster, we care on giving our older familiar heroes some love, and this is huge. So many games don't do that until it's too late, so this is big. So we're going to jump into that and see what we got. Alright, so we now have Old Lore. Deals 260 physical damage on his left hook, his basic ability. A dazed target will receive 340 physical damage and slow for 2 turns instead. So when we take a look at his basic ability, here we see we get to slow now. from the test server, where before a dazed target will receive physical damage, nothing more. So now they're adding the slow mechanic to his left hook ability. Okay, I mean, adding a debuff is okay. Hatred of Nature, his passive ability, deals 50% more crit damage to an additional 20% for each living elf in the enemy's party. If Dr. Frank is among the allies, restores shield 30%, equal to 30% of the damage dealt on a critical hit. So as you can see here, that adding Dr. Frank is what it is, and you know, he used to deal 30% more crit damage for each living elf in the party. Now deals 50% more crit damage and an additional 20% for each living elf. So his damage output, just by reading this, if you can still keep him alive, is humongous. And then with Dr. Frank, he's restoring that shield, helping his survivability. That's one of the big things about old lore, was his survivability. So that is awesome. And the next one up on the list is Sergeant Pigwald. His basic ability is called Pig Shot. So before this rework, it dealt 250 physical damage to an enemy. If the target is below 50% health, it deals 310 physical damage. Now it is deal 250 physical damage to an enemy. If the target is below 50% health, it deals 310 physical damage, so that all stays the same. But it now calls Arno in to assist if he is alive. So we're seeing more of that assist synergy put into the goblins. So that is something to keep in mind when we are trying to build a team for Arno. So pretty neat. And this just dawned on me. Arno, is that like Arnold Schwarzenegger? That's funny. Okay, anyways. Alright. Then, his lock and load ability will be the next one we're going to talk about here. And the way that it read previously is Sergeant Pigwald gains charge for 2 turns, increases damage by 3 times. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. Now what it says is, he gains the charge increase for his next attack by 2.35% or times, guaranteed to deal a critical hit. So you're guaranteed to land a critical hit to call in the assist. Pretty nifty. This effect cannot be prevented or removed. Using this charge ability recovers 50% of his turn meter. That is big in and of itself, because this move was terrible. You'd get Sergeant Pigwald, you would go to use this, and essentially you'd waste his turn, and then he's dead. So now you might have a chance to go again, increasing the turn meter on this move. I would have loved to seen it 100% so he could go instantly again, but that could have broke the game. I don't know. But that is big because it gives him more of a chance to get that critical hit off, and it can do some crazy damage. It was always able to do crazy damage. So that is huge. So now we're moving on to Dr. Frank, and what they changed about Dr. Frank is his passive ability. So we're going to go over that now. Now his passive ability, if a goblin ally attacks an enemy with shock, another random goblin calls in to assist. If the attacker is Dr. Frank, 2 random goblin allies will be called in to assist. And I believe this effect can work only once per turn. Now, his revamped passive ability, if a goblin ally attacks an enemy with shock, another random goblin is called in to assist. If the attacker is Dr. Frank or Old Lore, 2 random goblins will be called in to assist. This effect can only work once per turn. So we're seeing that Dr. Frank Old Lore synergy. Pretty interesting. For Kyra, her Go Dark ability. That is the first one we're going to talk about here. Now, as it currently stands in the game, Go Dark applies invisibility to all healers, tacticians, and fighters for 2 turns, applies counterattack to allied defenders for 2 turns, restores 25% of turn meter to all allies. If Venomate is on the battlefield, he gains haste for 2 turns. Here is a nerf. Applies invisibility to herself. All mages. So now we're seeing kind of like the cruel synergy brought into Kyra. Applies counterattack to all allied defenders for 2 turns. If Venomate is on the battlefield, he receives both of these effects. restores 25% of the turn meter to all allies except defenders. So we're getting turn meter, but your healers, which is what made her so valuable, is that you could put your team under stealth, is now gone. It's only for mages, but you're restoring turn meter to have people go faster. And I really like the caveat that it is for allied defenders are excluded from this, so you're not blowing through those counterattacks or the taunts. But this really is going to change early game PvP. And I'm going to have to play with that and see how it works out. But this one, to me, I'd kind of consider her Go Dark ability is getting a little bit of a nerf. Her passive ability is the next one we're going to talk about, and it is Surprise Attack. When Kyra is invisible, her attack deals 30% more damage. If Venom is the party, he receives the same buff. Alright, we all know how that works. Now her Surprise Attack ability reads, Invisible, Kyra increases damage by 25% and potency by 25%. If Venomate is in the party, he receives the same buffs. That is big, because on her basic ability, she inflicts, I believe, daze, or ability block, I'm sorry, for 2 turns, so giving herself 50% more potency, or 25% more potency is big, and then 25% more potency to Venomate could make him viable, because his potency is so dreadfully low. That could be really big. So that one is interesting, and that is a little bit of a buff, but still her main ability is that Go Dark ability, and that was nerfed. Next one up on the list here is Venomate, and we are going to start with What's Your Poison. What's Your Poison is his ability 3, and it applies critical damage increase, counterattack, and crit chance to an ally for 2 turns and restores 75% of the ally's turn meter. That is now moving to applies crit damage increased, haste, and critical chance for 2 turns, and restores 75% of their turn meters. So we're seeing that counter chance go away. Very interesting, and that, to me, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. We have crit damage increase, haste, and critical chance for 2 turns, but then you're giving them 75% turn meter. Then you're going to have haste on top of that. You're going to blow through that move so much faster than what you can do now. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out in battles, but it doesn't seem that the really benefit to that was giving somebody that counterattack. But the caveat for me here is haste, so you're increasing their speed essentially. So they're going to blow through these crit damage increase and crit chance increases much, much faster. And, the cooldown's still the same, 4. I don't know. It seems like maybe you'll get through 1 move on Venomate before this person might have 2, depending on who you put it on. So that one to me is an interesting change. So now we're going to be moving on to Xantera. And Xantera's rework came from her Sacrifice ability. Xantera sacrifices 25% of her health to heal all allies by 500% of her magic damage. Now, Xantera sacrifices 25% of her health, heals all allies by 500% of her magic damage, essentially the same, gains a shield equal to 5% of her maximum health for each living demon in the party. Very good change, increasing her survivability. Now, it does take down her plug-and-play viability as an early game healer, but the fact of the matter is that demons needed a solid healer, and this here, giving herself, if it's an all-demon party, 25% of her maximum health as a shield, pretty good. Might change the way you rune her, like that southwestern rune, where you get the option of health and shield. You're definitely going to want to put health there to increase that maximum shield gain back. So all in all, though, I really think this one is a benefit. Then we're going to talk about her Kiss of Death ability. Deals 330 magic damage to an enemy and recovers the same amount of health. Okay? And the rework of that states that it deals 330 magic damage to an enemy and recovers the same amount of her health for herself, and now Mega Wheel. Interesting, because the demon comp is kind of turning into 2 separate teams, So this is interesting because Mega Wheel already has a pretty solid health pool, but if you're essentially going to have 2 heals now on Mega Wheel, could make him a bigger tank because Mega Wheel is the next person we're going to talk about. And like we said, Mega Wheel, he has a lot going on with him right now. So his debuff of pain is replaced with a new unique buff called Torture. Mega Wheel gets 5% armor and 5% tenacity. Mega Wheel's armor rate was already extremely good, with 41% physical armor, I believe, and like right around 39 or 40 magic armor. 2 of the highest in the game, like top 10 easily on both. So that is super interesting to me that he's getting more armor. So let's get into his Get Him basic ability. His Get Him ability deals 230 to physical damage to the enemy and applies a stack of pain for 5 turns. Now it deals an extra 10% physical damage for each stack of torture. If Mega Wheel has the lowest health in the party, calls Zansera to assist if she is alive, applies 1 stack of pain for 5 turns, and added synergy to Zantera. Interesting. So, deals 230 physical damage to an enemy, deals an extra 10% physical damage for each stack of torture. If Mega Wheel is the lowest health, calls Zantera in to assist if she's alive. Okay, I guess. I mean, he is still more of a damage dealer than a tank in my opinion, based off that ability, but let's see if anything changes. His next ability, Hit Me. That is his taunting mechanism. And his taunting mechanism states that he gains taunt, cheat death for 2 turns, removes 2 debuffs, and recovers 25% health. One of the better taunting mechanisms in the game, I thought. And now it states that removes 2 debuffs, gains taunt and torture for 2 turns, gains a shield equal to 15% of his max health. So we went from him gaining taunt and cheat death for 2 turns and removing 2 debuffs and recovering health to now he is recovering, getting torture, which gives him the armor increase, and then gains a shield equal to 15% of his max health. So he's getting an armor increase because torture does armor and tenacity, so he's giving himself an armor and a tenacity increase and then shield instead of health. Interesting. Very, very interesting. You call that a hit on his 3rd ability. It used to state that what it did here was deals 220 physical damage to all enemies, removes all stacks of pain on them, deals an extra 50% of physical damage to each stack of pain. And now we are seeing 220 physical damage deals an extra 25% of physical damage for each stack of torture. So physical damage stays the same, but we're losing an extra 25% physical damage for each stack of torture. I don't know. This whole thing just seems like doesn't really seem to do much. And then his passive ability here, Hellish Torment, used to be called Harbinger of Death and increases critical chance by 6% for each living demon in the party. So when you went in and cleared all those pains, you're receiving a heck of a lot more damage. Now he gains torture for 3 turns upon taking a critical hit or Zantera's healing. A 30% chance to gain an additional 1 stack. So they completely reworked this, gave it a brand new name. Now this is interesting because as I was reading through it, his whole kit used to be on him applying pain to the other party. So you would have to put potency on him to get those to stick. Right? Now we're to the point where he no longer needs potency because this torture is on himself. And what he's going to do is he's going to remove those stacks of torture from himself doing all of these things. So now you can ruin him and not have to worry about that pain being attached. So now this starts to make a little bit more sense. Because I'm reading this essentially for the first time with you all. So you got to bear with the thought train. I'm sure you can see smoke coming out of my ears. But that's kind of where we have to be. And So now you're only putting on torture to himself. So now that we know that, 230 physical damage on his basic ability deals an extra 10% physical damage. So he throws that taunt up. He's getting critical hit left and right. He's going to stack that torture on him. This could be interesting, actually. Wow. Okay. So he's getting torture on his taunting mechanism. And then he's dealing 25% more physical damage for each stack of torture on his A3. Then 10% physical damage for each stack of torture on his A1. And the other cool thing you see here is he doesn't remove torture. So this is essentially just sticking with him till the turn goes out. I wonder if they can be dispelled or removed. That's not in here, so that's a question I'm going to have to ask. So now we're going to move on to Slinger. Once I read the passive ability rework, wish they would have put that one first. That makes a lot more sense for Mega Wheel, and that could be definitely interesting. So now we're moving on to Slinger. Let's see, his Cannonball and Little Shot. So they're not affecting his leadership ability. And Mega Wheel could now be huge because you get critical hit with Mega Wheel, puts on torture. You get critical hit under a Slinger lead, it adds some turn meter. That could be an interesting combination to keep in mind. But moving on to Slinger, we have his ability 2 here, which used to read deals 370 physical damage to an enemy and inflicts a damage decrease for 2 turns. Now deals 370 physical damage to an enemy. Critical hit removes 1 buff. Used to be damage decrease for 1 turn. That is huge. I like that. Because you're going to stack critical chance on him anyways, because when he does his Cannonball ability, which is the next one up, critical hits remove 1 buff. But it looks like that's getting changed. So let's take a look at his Cannonball ability. Deals physical damage to all enemies, 250. Critical chance hit removes 1 buff. Now that states deals 250 physical damage to enemies. This attack has a 40% chance more critical damage to enemies with taunt. So used to be a mass dispel. Now there isn't a mass dispel. So that is a nerf. But you're still going to want to stack critical chance on him because he's going to be doing 40% more crit damage to enemies with taunt. So interesting. The only good thing about that is the cooldown on Little Slingshot is 3, where Cannonball was 4, so you're going to be able to dispel more. But you don't want to use that on a taunter if your Cannonball ability is off cooldown because you don't want to remove that taunt. So this is interesting. But it also, that's a big nerf for Slinger the more I think about it, because you were able to remove the invisibles, counters to everybody if it crit hit. So that is a big nerf to the Slinger. Big nerf. Alright, next one up, Shadar. Added synergy with Radash. Power of Earth, his second ability. Currently it reads deals 460 magic damage to an enemy and stuns them for 1 turn. Now we're going to see 460, still stuns, but calls Radash to assist when he's on the battlefield. I'll take that all day. And then his passive ability, Bookworm. His passive ability, Bookworm, currently reads, that's his leadership, increases magical damage for each living demon by 10% in the party. Okay. Now it's stating increases magic damage by 10% for each living demon in the party. If Radash is on the battlefield, he receives the same buff. And that's huge because he is a mage, so the more magic damage you give him, phenomenal. Really like that. The Sacred Challenge leadership ability is the next one up, and this desperately needed a rework because it was terrible. As of right now, increases lifesteal and of all allied demons by 20%, a 30% chance to apply slow for 2 turns when inflicting a debuff to an enemy. Now, Increases potency of all allied mages by 20%. All allied demons have an 80% chance to apply slow for 1 turn when inflicting a debuff on an enemy. If the enemy is already slowed, the ally recovers 25% of their turn meter, but only once per turn. Way better. That is interesting. Wow, that is interesting. So, essentially, we have 3 pretty usable leads in the demon comp. But Slinger is still more of an all-encompassing lead in my opinion because it's not specific to demons. But potency to all allied mages, that gives him some plug-and-play viability with his leadership. Say you were putting him with Cruel, that Cruel comp, where you have, Cruel, Freezard, maybe more Doom, or Radash now. Interesting to think about that and the theory crafting behind that. So that is pretty interesting. And if the enemy is slowed, you're getting turn meter. And now it's an 80% chance to slow. That's pretty big. I like that. All right, we don't need Discord anymore. So we're going to talk about Radash and Arno, the 2 new characters. We're just going to quickly go over their move kits. So when it comes to Radash, he has a A1 basic ability where he's dealing 260 magic damage to an enemy with a 75% chance to inflict slow and burning. So we're seeing he's putting slow on his basic. He can be called in to assist with a Shadar, recovering turn meter if an enemy attacks with slow. Interesting. That is super interesting, because that plays right into the Shadar rework lead. Second ability, Ice Fire, deals 220 magic damage to all enemies. If the target is slow, inflicts burning. So again, we're seeing that slow synergy. We're going to need a lot of potency on this character, for sure. And if you pair him with Shadar, his magic damage is increasing per demons in the party, so that's something to keep in mind when we rune him. Third ability, Trick or Treat, removes all debuffs and applies them to random enemies for the same duration. Heals himself by 200% of his magic damage. Radash and Shadar recover 40% of their turn meter. Alright, so let's start with the top. He's removing all debuffs and applying them to random enemies. I wonder if that's to himself or to the other team, or the whole team. That could be interesting. Heals himself by 200% of his magic damage. Okay, so he's got his own heal, and Radash and Shadar recover 40% turn meter. That's pretty big, because Shadar's already feeding himself turn meter left and right. Then we see passive ability, gains 5% lifesteal and 3 speed for each slow enemy. If Shadar is in the party, he receives the same buffs. So he can heal himself. He's giving himself speed when slow is up. He's putting slow on his basic. Shadar's leadership benefits from slow. Freezard puts slow on his basic. Could Shadar be the new lead for that mage comp? Something to keep in mind there. 100%. That could be really interesting. And now let's go to Arno. Arno is a goblin. Arno, basic ability, piercing projectile, deals 260 physical damage to an enemy. If the target's health is above 50%, half the damage of this attack penetrates shield. 60% chance to apply accuracy increase to all goblin rangers for 1 turn. If this ability deals damage. So, goblin rangers. Major Shot and Sergeant Pigwald, but the big one here, Major Shot. Such a potency deficiency on a basic ability. What was it? Let's go back to Gobos. 60% chance to apply accuracy increase. If you got an accuracy increase on Major Shot, that'd be huge before his blind goes up. Interesting. Way to substitute potency. I kind of like that quite a bit. Second ability, Demolition Salvo. It shoots 4 rockets at enemies. dealing 160 of physical damage. Each subsequent rocket has the same to hit the same target as an 80% chance to inflict heal block for 2 turns. Alright, so we got a couple layers to this when you think about it. You put him with the General Murdoch lead, right? The more chances he has to crit, the more chances he has to call an assist. So you're having 4. Then you're putting a heal block on. If they hit the same target, that's all RNG. But the fact that you could get more assists from this Demolition salvo, the low damage absolutely means nothing. Interesting. Risk Your Neck is his A3, where he gains taunt for 2 turns. He recovers 5% health for each goblin in the party. Inflicts an armor decrease for 2 turns to the enemies with heal block. Sergeant Pigwald recovers 5% of his turn meter for each living goblin in the party. Feeding turn meter to his ungodly slow character in Sergeant Pigwald. I mean, 25% if everybody's up. Still not bad, because you're going to be taunting with him. That's why you got him on. And it can be used right away when you gear it, when you scroll it all the way up. So, interesting. Passive ability at level 6. If there is more than 1 goblin in the party, Arno sacrifices 20% of his current health to give all allied goblins a shield equal to 40% of his sacrificed health. All Arno healing abilities give all goblins a shield equal to 30% of the health healed. When the battle starts, Arnold and all allied goblin rangers receive haste for 2 turns. So Sergeant Pigwald and Major Shot are going to get haste. That's big. But why is he putting haste on himself? I don't really particularly care for that move. It's only at the start of the battle, but maybe it's because then he can get his taunt up quicker. But it's for 2 turns. Interesting. And then he's sacrificing his health, so Thanisa is going to come into play. And then the shield. So Dr. Frank could over-shield this guy just by insane amounts. Interesting. So my YouTube family, there it is. And that patch is huge. Huge. And the reworks bring a lot to the table. You're seeing Shadar, multiple theory crafting with Shadar. Slinger's taking a nerf in my opinion. Kyra's taking a nerf in my opinion. Interesting. But we're seeing a lot of synergy potentially brought into this game. And we're seeing, you know, I'd like to see some of those stat increases that they said Gear 11 would bring to certain characters and see what that does. Because me and Bones had talked about this on the last Goblin News. And when we talked about, in one of the other videos, when we talked about reworking characters, that this could be big. It really boils down to stats. So there's a lot to take in and a lot to practice. Not practice, but play around with in this patch. So this video is ungodly long, and I'm sorry for that. But there it is. There is the new patch notes, and this is cool to see the reworks, the new theory crafting that's going to be brought in. You have Shadar, I feel, have a very viable lead, and I really want to see how that plays out. Also, Shadar's leadership, which inflicts the slow, would have been really good in the raids, but that just you can't put slow on anymore, really, essentially. So interesting. There's just a lot going on, and my mind's going. So this is going to be really cool. It's going to be a lot of stuff to make videos on, and I'm looking forward to that. So if you made it this far, I really appreciate you watching to the end. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, turn on notifications, all that stuff. XMG family members, you know I love you. See y'all in the next one. I'm out.